It is 7 p.m., Monday, September 14th, 2020. And this is a regularly scheduled town board meeting of the town of Newburgh. First order of business is roll call. Mrs. Green,
I'm here.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Present.
Mr. Manley.
Supervisor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Manley.
Okay, I just got unmuted. Here.
Okay. And Mr. Lobiondo
Here.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Here.
If everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance. Flag of the
Of the
United States of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
All right, thank you. Mr. Supervisor, any changes to the agenda? Mr. Supervisor, any changes to the agenda?
I have no changes.
Okay. Next, we will go to the approval of the audit, item 5.
Looking for a motion to approve this audit in the amount of $1,949,231.50.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion, please? Mrs. Green,
Abstain.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 6. It's a public hearing for introductory local law number 4 of 2020, rezone property located at 5th Avenue and Route 52 for gas land.
All right, Mr. Petty, has this public hearing been properly advertised?
Mr. Supervisor, notice of this meeting had been posted on the town website since August 26, 2020, and in Town Hall also on August 26, 2020. It was advertised in the Mid-Hudson Times on September 2nd, 2020, and in the Orange County Post on September 4th, 2020. In addition, copies of the notice of public hearing and the introductory local law were mailed to the clerks of the municipalities bordering the town in Orange, Dutchess, and Ulster counties, and the county clerks of those counties. This complies with all the requirements for a public hearing under New York State law.
All right, so if we met all the requirements, does someone want to make a motion to open this public hearing?
So move.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to open this public hearing at 7:01 p.m. Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes. So with that, I'd like to turn it over, I think, Nick with Gasland. It'll give a small presentation for the purpose of this public hearing. Could we unmute Nick? Nick, are you out there?
I am. Yes, thank you. I was just waiting to be unmuted, and I am unmuted. Good evening,
You're
Mr.
on-
Supervisor, members
Good
of the
evening
Board
to
of the
you.
Public. Thank you. Good evening. Nicholas Ward Willis with the firm of Keenan Bean on behalf of Gasland Petroleum. I appear before you tonight in support of a petition that Gasland filed requesting rezoning of its gas station property that it owns at the intersection of 5th Avenue and South Plank Road. We've requested that the property be rezoned from its current R3 residential district to the adjacent B zoning district. In support of our petition, we submitted an environmental assessment form as well as a narrative describing the rationale why we're making this request. And the genesis of this request came because my client wanted to make changes to the gas station. We wish to do certain upgrades that I'll describe in a moment. We submitted an application to the planning board. And when we got to the planning board, we were told that because we are a non-conforming use, that we would not be permitted to proceed unless we got a use variance, which is a difficult criteria to meet. And the improvements we wanted to make were to internalize the restrooms. Right now, as you may know, the restrooms are accessed from outside and not inside the building. So that's difficult for us to enforce and police. It encourages loitering and other activities that we wish to discourage. We also saw an opportunity to freshen up this station and improve the building facade we had presented. My client went to the expense of retaining an engineer and architect and preparing plans and submitting that to the planning board. And we see this as an opportunity. We recognize there are some quality of life issues in the neighborhood that we can improve upon, but we need the town's help in doing that. And so we thought the best way to proceed, rather than applying for a use variance, which quite frankly, as a municipal attorney, I wouldn't recommend it be granted if we don't meet the criteria. We thought the best thing to do was to recognize that the existing zoning of residential doesn't work on this property, that this property is not going to be turned to a residential use. It will be a commercial use, and it being restricted to residential use has some difficulties with improving and investing in the property. So we've made this application and the town prepared a local law, and that's the subject of tonight's hearing. So we recognize that the property right now is a non-conforming use. As is set forth in our supporting materials, there are a number of commercial uses and commercial districts adjoining our property, so it's a logical extension. And my client today also met, as you know, Mr. Supervisor, with some of the residents today to listen to their concerns. And we heard the same concerns from them that we've expressed, that there are quality of life issues, increase the landscaping, bring the policing of a property better. And we think the changes that we had proposed to the planning board, which if this law is enacted and the property is rezoned, we would then be permitted to act upon those improvements. And we are prepared to do so because we were before the board and went through the expense of preparing these plans. So when my client spoke with Bob, who lives behind, and I understand is not able to join the meeting, but expressed some concerns about fencing and landscaping. And again, the main issue being the bathrooms not being located inside, that we would be able to address those concerns. There was also another gentleman, Danny, who had some concerns about the traffic circulation, which again, we'd be able to address. Unfortunately, there were some less than kind comments made from another resident, which were unfortunate, but I don't think have any bearing on this application that I'm going to ignore. But generally, we think that the ability to rezone this property would be an improvement to the area and allow this property to be freshened up, if you will. And then we're open to answering any questions the board or
Very good,
may
Nick. What I want to do maybe, Bobby, can you put up that PDF map so we can see what his property is? And it's surrounded in the business zone, actually. Okay. I see there's a circle and then an X, and that is actually your property right there.
That is correct.
Correct, Nick?
That is correct, Mr. Supervisor. And you'll see the
Okay.
red and the pink are the other industrial districts. We're a couple of 100 feet off of Interstate 84 and the exchange. And if people are familiar with the property, there are commercial uses adjacent to our property, as well as immediately within the vicinity. And the property is currently zoned R3, but it borders the B zoning district, as well as the IB district across the way.
Okay. If that's it with your presentation, I guess we'll go to questions.
It is, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask first that Town Clerk Petty, I think you've had a couple of written comments that have come in.
Correct. I had two comments, one from Robert and Mildred Suckup of Fifth Avenue, who shared their concerns, including access to the back of the property, barbecue tanks visible, litter that blows from the dumpster that is never closed, and drainage issues at the property line they would share with Gasland. My next comment came from Mr. Dane Clark of Fifth Avenue, who does not want any construction at this site because he feels, based on observation, that the gas station and 24-hour market is a constant source of disruption in the neighborhood. Those are the two comments I've received via email.
Very good. Thank you, Joseph. So with that, we'll open that to the public. Whoever wants to speak on this topic is welcome at this time. Can you see who's out there, Bob, who might want to speak?
Hey, Gil, quick question.
Yes.
I see the client is also on here. Should we ask him if he wants to say something first, or
Okay.
Zidon from Gasland?
Can you unmute him, Bob? Okay, so if the applicant himself wants to say something, and now's the time.
Mr. Supervisor and the board, no, thank you for listening to our concerns. We're here to work with the residents and get the property cleaned and family friendly. And we have no problem working with the reasonable residents and with the town.
All right, very good. Thank you. So with that, we will open it to the public. Who do you have, Bob, that might
Okay,
want
so
to?
we have someone 6N1K0Y.
It starts with 6M1. Could you unmute them and see if they want to comment on this? All right, 6M1, wherever you are. Do you want to comment on this public hearing, or are you just listening?
They're not unmuting.
All right.
Bill Fetter.
Bill Fetter is there. Bill, do you have a comment?
Karen Lobruto.
Karen Labuto is one?
No comment. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, Bill. And there's Karen also? Does Karen have a comment?
I'm here also representing the applicant. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Karen. What about Charles Ford we got there? Does he have anything to say? He's muted though, Charles. You're muted. Could you, okay. You're there now, Charles.
I have no comment.
All right, thank you. Who else we got, Bobby? Anyone?
Carl Paola.
Carl Kayola? If you're there, if you don't mute yourself, we'll hear you. No? Okay.
Dane Clark.
There you go.
Clark?
Hi. Hello.
Okay. Hello, is this Clark?
Hi, Supervisor.
Dan.
How are you?
Very good, thank you. Did you have something to say on this public hearing?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Clark. I approached, I saw the applicant today, and the conversation degenerated rather quickly into a back and forth, a belligerent type thing on both our parts. My major concern is, as stated before, there is constant turmoil over at this place. I've witnessed, while I'm here doing paperwork at night, I've witnessed assaults. The actual worker within the store has been beaten on a number of times. There's been robberies here, and there's been all these type of things, and it all goes on after 10 p.m. I'm not opposed to having a store operate here, a family-friendly one. As the owner has indicated, or as his attorney has indicated, there is a definite problem with being able to police the exterior access bathrooms, which are not actually up and running half the time. I've had a number of times where people have been urinating on my property, on the neighbor's property, and this goes on all hours of the night. On the weekends when we have travelers through the area, as you know, we're close to the interstate, and we'll have travelers from out of state, because you can see their license plates, and they've actually come over to ask to use my bathroom. So the fact that they're willing to have interior bathrooms is a plus. But unfortunately, when I've had to call on the town police for the various disturbances there at you know, in the wee hours of the morning, let's say, they never are able to show up on time. So one of the other neighbors here today brought up a thing where that store was originally supposed to only operate until 10 p.m. And that was an agreement with the town. I don't know. I would need some time to go back through the archives and see when that was done. There was a previous resident on my street that has since passed away who led that fight a number of years ago before I was even a landowner here. Like I said, my primary concern is I did get a chance to glimpse at the plans of the building, the facade. I must admit it's very attractive. but I'm concerned with the after-hour activity. Hello?
Right. Are you still there, Doctor?
I think so.
All right.
I would like to know how I would go about finding that ordinance or whatever it was with the curfew of when the store could operate there. As I'm sure you know, up the Meadow Hill Road store does close. I believe it's either 10 p.m. or midnight. The other gas station with the convenience store.
Well, we have a FOIL, you would put in a FOIL request, Freedom of Information, to the town clerk, tell him what you're looking for. And if there is such a document, he will attempt to find it. And if he can't find it, he'll tell you no document exists, but that would be it probably, to place a FOIL document with the town.
I understand.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else, Doctor? Or we go to someone else?
I had a bunch of documentation written down. I can't find that. Will there be any subsequent meetings?
Okay, here's what you get. Here's what you get. Because this is a Zoom meeting.
Yep.
When we close the public hearing tonight, you will still have
Yep.
10 days after the transcript is posted at Town Hall. You'll still have another 10 days after that. So you've got time to find it and send it in sometime.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. That's more than enough time. I thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So with that, who else we have? We have Danette. I don't know if she wants to talk on this subject. Could we unmute her? Do you have nothing on this?
Nope, nothing on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we got Joyce Crosley. Nothing on this, Joyce? Okay.
Bill, real quick, Scott Manley here. You got
Okay.
a landowner right behind there trying to get in there, Eric Gonzaga.
Do you find them up there, Bob? Yeah. Okay, Eric, if you're there, we'll listen to you. If you unmute yourself. Is he muted, Bob?
He's unmuted now.
Oh, now he's unmuted. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
My family has owned the property next door to this gas station for 50 years. Despite the sugarcoating that the attorney has put onto this by calling it a family-friendly place, I think that once they get what they want, then the behavior that I've experienced personally from the owner of this establishment will revert just to that. I've contacted him through numerous sources. I've left my number with his employees. He has never contacted any of the complaints that I have about the property. And I don't know Mr. Clark at all. He lives across the street, but I have to say that I'm sympathetic to his situation because I have a professional office building with an apartment upstairs, and any time of the day, I see people urinating, defecating behind this building. And I asked the person inside why it is that you do not open the bathrooms. And he told me, because bad people go in there, we don't do that. Historically, and this is going back 20, 30 years, this has been a hot spot for drug activity. I used to live in the apartment, and the payphone was used at that time when payphones are around for drug purchases. I've seen people passed out in their vehicles in the parking lot. There's been fights. Like he said, there's been numerous situations. And so for him to say he's going to make this family friendly by making interior bathrooms and improving the exterior is a fraud. Garbage blows onto my lawn. He has a garbage bin. There's a tree growing in the garbage bin. The doors swing open. I've seen it striking cars. He's a negligent property owner. The whole rear of the building is decaying. It's an eyesore to the community. And now he wants to say, well, we're going to make it family friendly, but what he really wants is just this commercial thing so he can do what he wants instead of making it fit into the region that he is. To say that it is adjacent or contiguous to the commercial zone, it's not. There are actually residential properties between him and the commercial zone. So he will then be, he's now a non-conforming use. He will also then, as a commercial property in a residential area, be a non-conforming use, which the property owners, we will have to pay the price for that one way or the other. There's no septic that I know of. I'm not sure. There's no gas. I'm not sure how the trucks access that other than through my property because he's putting a fence up along the other road. His people that drive through there, I've had to put tree stumps between the property to prevent people from driving across his lawn onto mine to gain exit from there because of the traffic that goes through there. It's a highly traffic area, especially now at rush hours, a certain time. People cannot exit or entrance there, but yet he wants to build a larger business than already exists. So why would the town considering on a little island in a residential area, allow him to build a larger business, which will cause more congestion and traffic? I don't understand that at all, especially when neighbors have concerns.
All right. So again, this is a public hearing where we gather information, but I think the attorney wants to speak. Is that right, Bobby? All right, so go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I just want to respond to the comments that, look, I can't speak for the past. There is a difference between the property owner and the operator. This presents us with an opportunity. We see an opportunity. We're willingly and voluntarily coming to the town. We've invested the time and the plans and the money. And sort of the comments we're hearing from the adjacent property owners, which I'm not minimizing, they are valid, and we actually want to address them and respond to them. So we think that granting this rezoning actually allows us to address some of those and correct these issues. And to internalize it, we need to increase the store size. The expansion we proposed before the planning board was modest. And the conditions that the gentleman has spoken about would all be addressed during the site plan review process to ensure that there is adequate screening, the traffic flow and traffic circulation concerns are addressed. So I don't think the rezoning is going to be a problem. I think the rezoning is going to help fix the problems, and then we can address and dive into the details when we're before the planning board. And we are mindful of the comments.
All right, very good. Thank you. Does anyone else want to comment on this topic on this public hearing? Hearing that, how about the board members? Betty, do you have any comment?
I'd like to know how long the current owner has been in possession of the property.
All right, could somebody answer that, the attorney or Nick or someone?
Years.
18 years.
We got 2 years left.
18 years. And I don't mean to be rude, but during these last, say, 5 years, he has not noticed any of these items that his neighbors have brought to the attention tonight?
The only time we spoke with Eric is when he was trying to force us to buy his property. We've never spoken about the conditions of the, and he's actually encroaching onto our property. But we do know that the place needs work. We have a lousy operator who he's on his way out, and since he's on his way out, we want to take it over, operate it the correct way, and turn it into a state-of-the-art location.
Betty, do you have anything further?
No, that's it.
Okay. With that, Paul, anything, Paul?
Yeah, I got a few things. First, is there a dumpster enclosure incorporated in this when they do remodel it?
No.
Yes.
There is a dumpster enclosure?
There's one now that's not very nice, and the new plans definitely show a much nicer one.
Okay. Secondly, would the applicant be interested in closing at 10 o'clock instead of being a 24-hour?
No.
Okay.
This is the attorney responding. I would think that we would want to be treated as other gas station applicants and be entitled to take the benefits of the law as it allows us. So I think the answer to that would be no.
I think a lot of gas stations, you have some that close at midnight, some at 10 o'clock. I think it's up somewhat. You can't say carte blanche across the board that everyone has the right to be open for 24 hours. You have to see what works for them.
All right, thank you.
Hello, my name is Mitch Nashwat. I'm the president of Gasland. The gas stations, the Shell gas station open 24 hours up the road, and the Valero open 24 hours. I'm half a mile away from the state on 84, and there's a sign on 84. By law, the state they want us to open 24 hours, and within the 24 hours for the past 35 years, I own the property. We've been open 24 hours. There's never one time was closed 10 o'clock. And I bought that location from Northville. It used to be Northville gas station. And was Citgo, was Shell, all those years. The person has adjacent property to me, trying to sell the property to me, and he's encroaching with his driveway, the black top on my property, because his tenant is, the dentist want to move.
I think we have to keep this,
Yes,
to
thank
the
you.
topic of the zoning change,
keep it
not neighbor
focused.
disputes. So let's keep it to the topic. So with that, who do we
I
have
just
out
have
there?
one more thing, Gil.
Okay, Paul.
Are they going to have a Dunkin' Donuts, a Subway incorporated in this store at all, or no?
Absolutely not. The whole purpose of the rezoning, I'm trying to bring it to build a very modern and very conformant, decent, convenient store with 2 bathrooms inside. So because we get a lot of traffic of the highway, so we could know who's in there, so nobody could hang out around the building.
Now, do you have cameras at the building now?
Yes, sir. What is it?
Do you have cameras around the building now? And if not, are you going to invest in cameras around the building?
We will invest in cameras around the building. We will put I was talking to the adjacent property, the person directly behind us.
Bob.
We're willing to put lights to flash on if somebody walking, sensor lights, so the light will go on.
And we do have cameras.
And we do have cameras, and we will barricade all the backyard. And this property on town water and town sewer is not a septic, just for the record.
Okay.
That's all I have, Gil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, Scott, do you have anything, Scott Manley?
So I hear different things from residents, and I definitely understand the concerns. If we don't do anything, the place stays the same from the sounds of it. If we don't do zoning change. So as far as the zoning change, let me step back. Everybody's talking about these people operating who owns it. So I don't know if anybody, the representative's still on there. So just get it straight. The people that are in there now running it are not the actual owners. They're basically tenants.
They are tenants. And there's nothing in my hand, I cannot evict him. He have a tenant, he has a lease, and especially right now, I cannot even go to court for it with him.
Right.
And we send violations, we send letters, and I put the dumpsters there is not good enough, but I put it out on my own expense, and I wasn't responsible just to please the tenants.
So with that, Eric, I know you want to speak a second time, so just hold on. I want to finish the council first. So I'm going to ask Councilman Lobiondo if he has anything to add to this. I think you're muted though, Anthony.
Yes, I'm not muted now.
Okay.
Sir, I'm just asking, I have a question regarding the length of the lease. Do you know when the lease expires with your tenant?
On the end of 23. He has like 2 years and a couple of months.
Have you sent him any notices of violation regarding some of the issues that have been raised tonight?
We sent him violation, yes, and we speak to him verbally, yes, and
There's so much we could do.
so much we could do, and in this industry, you know, only so much you could do. We got a lot of locations, and
Anything else, Anthony?
No, nothing further.
All right, thank you. So with
I
that,
have
Nzanka has a question, I think. Then we'll get to you, Betty.
Okay.
Nzanka, can you unmute him?
He's on.
He's unmuted.
I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Well, I think what I've just discovered is Mr. Neshawat and his attorney are willing to say anything to get this passed. For them to represent that I tried to force them to buy my property is a complete fraud.
All right, I mean, we're going to strike that from the record, but like I say, that's a neighbor thing. That's not the purpose of this
I'm not talking
public
about
hearing.
everything. He said it on the record, Gil. He
Well,
said
you
it
could
on the
say,
record.
so you could say it on the record what your side is, but we can't go on all night over neighbors.
Okay, well, I'm not saying it's on record, but it just, these petty differences that they're saying now would indicate to me that they're not being honest about their intent. 18 years this man has owned this property. He doesn't want to tell, he doesn't tell you when the lease of the current owner or lease lessee is extended to, or when it started. So he's the guardian of this property, and he's been neglecting it for 18 years. So I think the council should consider the fact that he just wants to change this at this point in time. He wants to defame his neighbors or represent things, and then he'll do what he wants to do, and he'll have this zoning. So I think the council really has to consider the taxpayers of that community and the effect this is having. And these two, I can tell you from personal experience that you just heard two misrepresentations from two individuals that are asking for something from this community and are coming from outside this community, not people who've been here for decades.
Okay, anyone else on this topic? Anyone else out there, Bobby? Hands up, you don't see anything? Okay. My last comment is this, because I get one too. I think without the zoning change, what you see is what you get. I don't think there's any chance of improving what's there. That's what's in my mind. So.
Don't
and
forget
with
me.
that, Betty, you had something, go ahead.
Yes. You said that the person who's leasing it, the lease is not up till 2023. Now, if you make these changes, what guarantee that you have that the person who's still going to be leasing it is going to live up to the changes and make the changes that you're indicating here? How frequently are you going to inspect it? What's the criteria that's going to make this person clean up their act?
I'm not gonna put $1 million into the building and keep the same guy who's hostile to me much as he's hostile to the neighbor. And he's bad for my business much as he's bad to the neighbors. So it doesn't benefit Gasland. Okay, I built other locations in the town, and I got a block from the town on Homewood Avenue. The town gave me a block on Homewood. And we run a good operations. I inherited and I got a bad tenant. Nothing I could do. Okay. The reason I went in front of the planning board more than once to upgrade this building, just to tell the neighbors, and I couldn't succeed. One time was when I turned it to Dunkin' Donuts. And I did upgrade the building 10 years ago with a stucco. We put the dumpster, we put the fence, and I'm trying. But the zoning, I have my hand tied because of zoning. Nothing I could do.
Okay, but you really have not answered my question. What steps are you going to take to have your person who's leasing the property work with you to make it a better place?
The answer is, by the time I get the zoning and the planning board, will at least will be a year or a little more than a year will be going. So by the time, if I knock the building down, I'm redoing the building. The tenant will not be there anymore.
Okay.
I'm not gonna invest the money and keep the same tenant and I keep the same headache to me and to the neighbors. I don't want to. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. With that, is there anyone else before we close this hearing? Someone want to make a motion to close this hearing?
So move.
I'll second it.
Knowing that we have 10 days following the posting at Town Hall to make this transcript to still accept comments. Okay. I guess we're ready for the vote, Joe.
Right, motion made and seconded to close the public hearing at 7:31 PM. Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Paul's muted. Okay. Still muted.
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
He's muted. Anthony, okay.
Yes.
thank you. And Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next we go on to item 7 for the Justice Court, approval of court clerk appointment.
All right, so Justice Clarino is looking to hire a court clerk, and again, this is a tested position off the county list, Brittany Meeker, at an hourly rate of $19.49 an hour, and it's in his fund appropriation 1110.0100 with a start date of September 15th, based on the background check and everything to go with it. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any discussion, please? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 8 for the Recreation Department. Approval to start process to hire a part-time laborer.
All right, Jim Pursuti, our Parks Commissioner, is requesting the process to start to hire a part-time laborer in recreation. And that's to fill the position of Fred Zanika, who has left. Someone want to make that motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 9 for the filter plant for a budget transfer.
All right, this is from our Water and Superintendent, Jeff Guido, who's requesting a budget transfer as presented, but basically he's moving money from the New York City Water Board to sludge hauling and chemicals, because we've used Chadwick more than the New York City Water for the last few months. So someone want to make a motion for those transfers as presented?
I'll make the motion as presented.
I'll second as presented.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 10 for data processing, surplus computers.
All right, these computers, there's 24 that we're going to declare surplus here. They have the very old processors and are just about useless to the town. So I'm looking for a motion to declare these 24 Dell computers surplus.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 11 for the assessor. First item B is tax settlement for the DeBrisi Exemption Trust.
All right, I don't know if you've had a chance to look this over. Hopefully you have. We're going to approve this settlement tonight. Betty, have you looked at it?
Yes, I have.
You're okay with it?
Yes.
Someone want to make a motion to approve this settlement as presented here? How much money really is it for the town, Betty, on the refund? Is Mark Taylor out there? Can we unmute Mark?
It's like 7170 for town, 4117 for highway.
Okay. Mark, are you out there? Is he muted? He's unmuted.
Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
Now we can hear you well, Mark.
Good. The refund liability for the town and highway will be approximately $6,000, a little under $6,000.
Okay. And this settlement, Kathy Drobny, our certiorari attorney, is recommending it and all at this point, yes? So someone want to make a motion to approve this settlement?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes. And the next one is the Upstate Electronics, which is 11B. And this is another settlement. I always ask Betty because she's really into this receiver and assessment thing. Are you okay here, Betty?
Not thrilled, but I'll go along with it because it is 4 to 5 years old. They've grieved every single year, and we're finally getting close to settling this.
And Mark, this is how much for the town on this one to return?
Given the number of years involved, it's approximately $30,500 versus claim refund liability over $100,000.
Very good. Okay. So knowing that, does someone want to make a motion to this certiorari settlement?
I'll make that motion.
I need a second, please.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green?
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero?
No.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo?
Yes.
And Mr. Piacquadio?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we go on to item 12 for the Highway Department for Tarpon Way. Item
All right.
A is Tarpon Way Road dedication.
All right, and I know hopefully Mark Taylor is going to help me if I need help here, but the first one will be, we're looking for a consent motion to accept Tarpon Way. Someone can make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green?
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero?
Yes.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo?
Yes.
And Mr. Piacquadio?
Yes.
Next, we go on to item B, Tarpon Drainage District dedication.
So this would be a motion accepting of the drainage facilities for the Tarpon subdivision, which was recently created. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
I'll give it to Mr. Lobiondo.
Yeah, I
Any
think it was
further-
a tie, but yeah.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green?
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero?
Yes.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo?
Yes.
And Mr. Piacquadio?
Yes.
Next, we go on to item C, authorization of the reduction in the cash security for the public improvements to a maintenance security amount.
All right, so here we're looking for a motion to reduce the cash security for the Tarpon Way down to $79,053 and no cents. It'll be reduced down to that amount. Someone want to make that motion?
so moved.
And I'll second it.
That goes to Mr. Ruggiero. Any further discussion?
I do want, what is it now before it's being reduced?
Yes.
Mark had that number this after. What is it now, Mark?
The performance security the town holds right now is approximately $150,000, a little above $150,000. Now that the improvements are completed and being taken over to the town in it specifies that the amount to be posted as a maintenance security is 10% of the original performance security amount. And the original performance security amount before any improvements were constructed was $750,000 plus change. So, or
Okay, very good,
excuse
Mark.
me,
Thank
700
you.
plus change. So the $79,000 maintenance security amount is 10%.
You okay with that, Betty? We're holding a lot of money there. It looks just the same, so I think.
No, I realize that. Meh, I'm not saying I'm happy with it, but I'll go along with it.
Okay, so the motion was made and seconded. Mrs. Green?
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero?
Yes.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo?
Yes.
And Mr. Piacquadio?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we go on to item 13 for the Sewer Department. Community Development Block Grant Agreement for Roaston Hills Sewer District.
All right, and this is a grant we're going to receive to make improvements on the Roaston Sewer District. So this gives us the ability to move forward on it if we get a board vote. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Who was it, Joe?
I gave it to Mr. Ruggiero.
Okay.
Got you twice, Scott.
Any second, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilman Manley. Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Okay, next we go on to item 14 for the engineering department. Water main improvements at North Fletcher Drive.
All right, so what this is, and I see Patrick Hines, engineer for the town, is suggesting that we go with a Mazer Construction, and he would prepare the bid documents for this project, on North Fletcher Drive. So it's $6,750, a lump sum. Someone want to make that motion?
So move.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Okay, next we go on to item 15 for animal control, a T94 withdrawal.
All right, so here Cheryl Cunningham, Animal Control Officer, is asking we spend $302 from the T94 account, which is a donation account to Tara Incorporated for canine and feline medical services. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 16 for the police department. Item A, approval to hire full-time police officer.
All right, so Chief Campbell is suggesting that we hire Michael Carfora, who has been a part-time officer, yet was on the list, and we're able to hire him full-time. So he's suggesting we hire him full-time at the PBA contract rate, which I believe is $62,712 per year, from appropriation 001-3120-0100-000 with a proposed hire date of September 21st, 2020. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Beat your ball.
Got him.
I just want to say that Carfora has been an outstanding officer for the town. too,
Yes.
So this is great that he's full-time. Okay.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Item B for the police department, approval to begin process to fill 2 vacant sergeant positions.
All right, again here, Chief Campbell is asking that we obtain the list from the county to fill 2 sergeant positions due to retirements. So someone want to make that motion?
So move.
I'll second.
Second.
Mr. Manley got, Councilman Manley got that one.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 17, the Kaplan Foundation. Approval to apply for grant for purchase of Desmond Estate.
All right. Usually we discuss things after a motion and a second, but I just want to give you a little background here because my board members are aware. The Desmond Estate having been closed in March of this year due to the virus and whatnot, but it seems that it's up for sale. Mr. Kaplan has said that he will buy it. He'll give us a grant to buy it with. And it's his wish and mine also that we'll continue it to run it the exact same way that it's been run with the programs in place, plus some of our programs. There's bus trips we can add to our bus trips, so it seems like a perfect fit. But what we're really doing tonight on this motion is just saying this motion is that we can apply for the Kaplan grant So here's what the motion's going to be. It's looking for a motion to apply to the Kaplan Foundation for a $1 million grant for the purchase of the Desmond Estate and the operation of the programs. So if someone would make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiando,
Yes.
Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes.
Okay, next we go on to item 18 for announcements.
All right, I have an announcement that I have to read, so I'm going to do mine first instead of last. Now, this was written by an engineer in the water department, so it's only half a page. If the attorney's done it, it'll be 3 pages. That's, don't take that negative, Mark, but here, let me read it off real quick. This is Water Interconnect Test number 2. The town of Newburgh has scheduled a test of its water supply interconnection with the town of New Windsor for the week of September 21st, 2020, for approximately 3 days. New Windsor will supply up to 1 million gallons of water through the interconnection on Route 300 near Walmart into the Newburgh water system. Customers along and adjacent to the Route 300 corridor will be supplied from the interconnection. The water supply from the interconnection will be vital in meeting the town of Newburgh's water supply needs during the anticipated shutdown of the Delaware Aqueduct in 2020 by New York City. The uses of this interconnection will cause the flow of water to be from the opposite direction, as is typical. When this happens, some sediment in the water mains may be distributed, resulting in temporary discolored water. If this happens, please run your faucets until the water becomes clear. If the problem persists, call the water department at 845-564-7813. If you have any questions concerning this test, please contact Patrick Hines, engineer for the town, at 845-564-4552, or Jeff Guido, water management supervisor, at 845-564-7813. And this will be a press release tomorrow. So it's a water test that's going to take place in 2020 when we might need it. We want to make sure we can have a backup supply through New Windsor, and we're also their backup supply. So that's really my announcement. Betty, you have anything?
I have nothing.
Paul?
No, nothing, Gil.
Scott?
A couple of quick things. First of all, I'm very excited about the Desmond, but Jim Pursuit, Parks Commissioner, he's been doing a wonderful job with all the recreation people up there. That he's very lucky as a liaison to have such a great crew up there. But I love my live music, and this Thursday is the last show of the year. Hurley Mountain Highway's playing, was at 6 p.m. on Thursday. And I see today they just put out the Moonwalk is October 1st, which would be before our next regular town board meeting.
Thank you, Scott. So Anthony, you have anything?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So Joseph, that being said, we'll go to public comments.
Item 19. I have one public comment from Mr. Charles Ford, a Bridle Path. Mr. Ford taught courses for 20 years at the Desmond campus. He's very much in support of reopening the Desmond campus. He feels that these programs have influenced many people to join as students and teachers.
Thank you. I could tell you, I have numerous emails today from, thank you for doing it. It's really, I guess it was quite the operation. We're going to try to get it back and running. Joyce, do you want to say something? I don't put you on the spot. Good. Can we unmute Joyce?
Well, she can unmute.
You got to unmute yourself, Joyce. You got to unmute yourself. If you hit that screen, you should be able to say unmute somewhere.
I'm
There
so
she is.
new to this Zoom. I'm sorry.
Okay, you're live.
My heart is singing that we're going forward with this, and you have the support of all of us 100%.
All right, Joyce,
Can you
thank you
hear
so
me?
much. Thank you so much. Anyone else with any public comment?
Looks like Bill Fetter's there waving.
Okay, Bill. I can't see him on my screen, but you can. Okay, Bill.
Thank you. Regarding the cross connection with New Windsor, the source water there will be either, could be the reservoir water, or it could be Browns Pond water, or whatever is online for them at the time.
Well, you know, for that, we got Pat Hines here too. Pat, can you unmute and answer that question?
I can. The interconnect is most likely going to receive water during this shutdown from the Catskill Aqueduct based on the pressures in the town of New Windsor system. So the feed lines from the Riley Road filter plant will feed the town of Newburgh during this shutdown. Obviously, the water is mixed in the system, but based on the system dynamics, the water will more likely be the flow from the Catskill Aqueduct Riley Road filter plant.
And then the town of Newburgh supply could be whatever's on, theoretically in the future, could be the Chadwick Lake or the reservoir, I guess. More likely Chadwick Lake, I suppose.
Yeah, currently the town's currently running Chadwick Lake as at the highest capacity it can as part of this resiliency testing, assuming that, and we're going to shut the Delaware Aqueduct down during this testing.
Right.
To simulate the occurrence when the Delaware Aqueduct is actually shut down. We put a lot of effort into these interconnects, and the town of Newburgh to New Windsor side has been tested, but we've never tested it the other way. So we have the opportunity now to do that, and we felt it was a good idea to do this resiliency testing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Bill. All right, anyone else?
I know Iris Stewart's waiting.
Okay, can you put him on? Is he unmuted?
I think she's unmuted.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, actually, I'm Lisa Galena using my daughter's computer, Iris.
Okay.
Sorry about that identity theft. I am the former director of the adult and graduate programs at Mount St. Mary College from 2007 to 2017. I supervised the staff and the programming at Desmond. It was one of the greatest joys of my professional career. I was downsized from the college in 2018. And I just want to say that I think this is an amazing opportunity. The curriculum and programming that we worked to develop over the years is so inclusive to the community. I can see if the county was able to take up this opportunity. There are so many amazing curricular activities you could do, especially in light of COVID on that property. We had so many amazing ideas over the years, but due to lack of funding from the main campus, we were able to only run the amazing programs we did, but there's an opportunity for intergenerational programs, cultural programs, environmental, outdoor gardening. I mean, it is one of the greatest parts of my pride of my professional career. And when it was no longer under my my purview, it was really heartbreaking. And I just want to say that I truly hope that this goes through and I could be available to speak with you about the ways that we had talked about leveraging it each year in my annual report. And so I'm just very excited that you're all excited because it is an amazing place. And the bequest from Mrs. Alice Curtis Desmond, this is what she would want. And I'm very happy that you are all so interested and excited about it. And I hope that this is something that goes through. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I could tell you, like they say, I don't show my emotions much, but I'm really excited about this one, even though it doesn't show. This is going to be great for the town and the whole area, really. So anyone else? Yes.
Who's that lady that just spoke, please? It wasn't Iris Stewart.
Lisa Galena, Gallina. I live across the river. I live in Beacon, but I worked at the Mount for 13 years, and I also was an adjunct there.
Lisa, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else, if they put their hand up, we can let them speak. If anyone has anything on any topic. You see any hands, Bobby? All right, with that, I think we can make a motion to adjourn this meeting, then. Someone want to make that motion?
So move.
That was definitely Betty.
Right.
I'll second it if Paul doesn't jump in there.
Can I have a second, please? Councilman Manley?
Yes.
Okay, motion made and seconded to adjourn at 7:57. Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero?
Yes.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo?
Yes.
And Mr. Piacaudio?
Yes, thank you, everyone, too, for
Thank you.
joining the meeting. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Stay safe.